Good evening, everyone. Uh, we'll be looking at D2C brands in India today. The timing, I didn't time the presentation. We had planned this about 2 months back, but it just happened that Nika's IPO opened today, and we'll be speaking about D2C brands in general, not particularly Nika. So, what are D2C brands? Basically, D2C brands in India started sometime in 2016 onwards. In US, it started a little earlier, about 2 3 years back, before 2016, so around 2012 13. And D2C is basically direct to consumer brands where most of the revenue or customer acquisition happens through their own online channels, or they start with an online first distribution channel before going omni channel, that is both offline and online. Companies like Shopify, there's a Shopify equivalent based in Pune, Shoptimize. So all of these are enablers to these small businesses, which enable them to start their own business online and start selling their products online. So it all started with Dollar Shave Club in US. The product proposition of Dollar Shave Club was that basically Gillette products are very expensive. We'll give you cheaper products, and at the same time, we'll give you a subscription model where you will get a set number of razors and blades and on a monthly basis. And at that point in time, it was costing about dollar a month. Obviously, now it's much higher, but still it's much cheaper than what Gillette used to provide. So basically, what happened was that males preferred this because it became a subscription model, and what happened was it created some sort of a unique experience for them. And then, obviously, the social engagement that Dollar Shave Club provided in terms of a community of like-minded consumers, that was also something that was a differentiator for them. Uh, Eventually, what happened was that it got acquired by Unilever sometime in 2016 at about $1 billion, and it was the valuation at that point in time was about 5 times sales. So basically, it started with its founder, Michael Dubin. His video went viral as to why people should buy his products, and within 48 hours of the video, they had about 12,000 inquiries, and then it just took off. So we'll just look at that video here.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
So basically, what this founder and the company showed was that someone as small as a startup can compete against the likes of Gillette in US, and because of the D2C channel, they could actually sell their products. So this was just the start in US. In India as well, we have seen companies evolve, disrupt, transform, as well as innovate. So some business models have been disrupted, some are in the process of disruption, and we'll see each of the sub segments where some disruption is happening at some point in time. So I admire Nikhil Vora of Sixth Sense Ventures. So basically, he runs a fund which invests in these D2C brands, and there are a couple of other private equity funds as well, like Fireside Ventures, which invest in these funds. And he always says that brand awareness is at an all-time high, and brand loyalty is at an all-time low. So people are more aware about brands, whereas they are less loyal towards the brands, and that's why we see newer consumers experimenting with new brands every day. If you go to Cred and if you go to the store, you will see new brands almost every day coming up. Customer acquisition cost has come down dramatically from about 1500 per customer about 2 years back to about 200 300 right now. Distribution channels have been changing. So from the traditional distribution channel to the D2C online websites as well as social media, we have seen these are also changing. Also, there is a lot of availability of capital. So if you see venture capital funds, the private equity funds investing in these funds, so there's a US based company called Thrasio. So what it basically does is it acquires all the companies which are selling on Amazon, and then they enable them to sell on their D2C network. So just some rough figures. They have a revenues of $500 million just by doing this. Profits of about $100 million and a valuation of roughly about $3.5 billion. Similarly, in India, we have seen some investors coming in. So if you know ex CEO of Myntra, Mr. Anant Narayanan, he has started his own company called Mensa, where he acquires brands and then enables them to launch their own D2C brand. So he has raised about $50 million. First Cry has raised recently $75 million, and their aim is only to acquire these brands and then enable them to sell more and more. So basically, Brian Solis said this, that disruption is either going to happen to you or because of you. So this is very apt for the incumbent companies where they need to adapt to the changes. They need to disrupt their own business models and try and innovate so that someone else doesn't come into their own market and hurt them in the future. So, coming to some of the business models or subsegments where the business models have been disrupted or in the process of disruption. So, if you look at the hotels business, so the traditional companies are on the left side where Taj, Oberoi, ITC have their own hotel chains, and then Club Mahindra has its own chain of resorts. Whereas on the right side, you see some of the newer companies who want to take advantage of these assets which have already been built by these hotels, and then have a very low capex kind of a model and enable consumers to have vacations at these places. At the same time, in the consumer space, if you look at the traditional companies like HUL, Nestle, ITC, and on the right side, you see that there are some white spaces which have been left by these consumer giants. And so, for example, Viva does sauces and dips, which none of the incumbent companies does, and it has found its own space within this segment. So, Viva is right now about a 400 crore kind of a revenue, and it's grown quite well. Same way, Licious is one of the first unicorns in India in the D2C space. It does about 1,000 crores of revenues, and you would have seen some ads recently on TV. So, what they basically do is deliver fresh meat to the consumers. Good Dot is a plant-based protein company. Again, it's a very evolving space in India, but in US we have seen some companies really do well in that space. So there are some small niches which these upcoming companies have taken, and they have disrupted some of the models. Coming to tea and coffee, so we have seen a wide range of companies coming in this space. In coffee, I can name at least 15-20 companies which have come up in the recent times. Blue Tokai, Sleepy Owl, Rage Coffee, and in tea, we have seen Vadham Teas also come in. So these are basically newer brands innovating and giving new flavors, new tastes, new blends to the consumers. Even in beer, we have seen Kingfisher, Carlsberg, Heineken, Budweiser for all these years making those same beers. Whereas we have seen newer companies come in, start with craft beers, and as and when they grow, they enter the main market and launch. So Bira, for example, has launched light and strong beers now. So they are competing against the likes of Kingfisher now. So basically, they are playing on the trend where a son would not want to have the same brand what his father has had. So try new brands, be young and show your brand as young. So some of the jargons which are used in this space, particularly in the venture capital space, I'll just mention a few of them. So AOV is basically the average order value that the customer pays while placing the order. Annual run rate is basically the monthly revenues multiplied by the last month revenues, you multiply by 12, not the last 12-month revenues. CAC is customer acquisition cost, which the company pays to acquire new customers. D2C we know, and lifetime value of the customer is basically if the customer stays for a longer period of time and you pay a high customer acquisition cost to acquire them, then what value you get over the life of the consumer. MP is marketplace, and ready to eat or ready to cook. So coming to the retail market in India, obviously 2020 was a disruptive year and it degrew by 3%. Whereas if you see the breakup between the brick and mortar retail and e-commerce actually grew 28%, and this has continued even post COVID. So if you see the last 3-4 months data also, e-commerce has grown very well. So the habits of the consumers which have changed in the COVID period are continuing. Now, coming to the differences between online retail and offline retail is basically while building a retail store, you incur a huge capex, and then you hope that the customers will come and walk into your store, and then obviously you have to pay the operating costs like rents, salaries, etc. Whereas on the online space, if you see the cost of developing an app is not that much, but the cost of acquiring customers is a little high. So that's why you look at the lifetime value of the consumer, where you know how much what will be the number of repeat orders that the consumer will do, and then based on that you calculate the lifetime value of the customer. So this has happened mainly because of the traditional brands getting into a comfort zone. So if you see the last 10 to 15 years, not many brands have been launched in India. uh, Most of them have been expansion of the brands which were already in existence. Also, if you see inorganic growth opportunities, these multi giants have acquired some of these upcoming smaller brands. So, just to give you a number, Dabur has launched about 4 brands in the last 10 years, whereas Imami is at 2 brands, PNG, Britannia, and GCPL one each. Apart from that, no one has launched more brands. Most of them have been the acquisitions. Obviously, these traditional brands are launching their own D2C stores as well. So recently, we have seen HUL opening up its own online store called the U Shop, and ITC has launched last year e-store, ITC e-store. So we'll see some competition in this space from the multi giants as multinational giants as well. But these upcoming brands are doing really well. So this is just to compare the brands, traditional brands versus the D2C brands, and how much time did it take for them to reach 100 crore in revenues. So if you see the food and beverages space, Bikaji took about 21 years, Organic India took about 17 years. Whereas Country Delight, which delivers fresh milk and dairy products, it took about 4 years to reach 100 crores. Licious Meat took about 3 years. Muscle Blaze, who sells whey protein and other nutrition products, took about 3 years. In the personal care space, also, if you see Revlon and Lotus took about 19 to 20 years, whereas the new upcoming brands like Sugar Cosmetics, Mama Earth, My Glam took anywhere between 3 to 4 years. In fashion, we have seen some brands taking 13 to 15 years. Specifically in innerwear as well, Enamer took about 13 years. Zivame took 77 years to reach that, being a very difficult segment to track. Then also they did really well. HRX took about 5 years and Lenskart 4 years. Even in the electronic segment where the competitive intensity is very, very high, you have seen some brands doing really well. So Boat, for example, has taken only 2 years to reach 100 crores in revenues. So coming to the D2C market size in India, uh, since 2016, since this took off in India, they have done about 1.6 billion in funding in all the startups combined. 800 plus brands have been launched in India in the last 5 years. 20 plus global unicorns, only one in India, which is Licious Meats. And in the first 7 months of 2021, they have raised about $787 million through 66 funding rounds. This is almost half of what was raised in the last 7 years from 2014 to 20. So you can imagine the amount of funding that these companies have received and what they will do in the upcoming months. So, what are the ingredients that make these brands a success? So, one is that tap new customers, the underserved new age customers, tap women customers who have not been tapped till now. So, as more and more women go out and work, they need to be tapped. Then develop a personal connect with the brand. So basically, do that through the some social media engagement, etc. Also, catch customers who are willing to experiment new brands. There is a room for product innovation and being very fast to the market. So right now, the distribution channels are such where it takes a long time to come to the market. Whereas if you launch a product online, then it's very very fast. At the same time, if something goes wrong, you can withdraw your product very quickly and then resolve the issues that are there. Also, availability of third-party logistics providers has been a very, very good advantage that these companies have got, which was not there previously. Now, let's go through a typical journey of a D2C brand, how it grows over a long period. So, this is the typical early stage of a brand where they focus only on the digital distribution, and they have a mix of both own website plus they sell on marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, etc. Own platform is used for marketing as well as customer loyalty and retention. So basically, if you sell it through your own website or app, then you have the customer database. At the same time, you see the patterns of customer, where how much is he buying, at what point in time, and which products is he buying. For the marketplace model, the data resides with the marketplace company. It doesn't come to the brand owner, but it increases the discovery of the brand and it reduces the customer acquisition cost to some extent. We'll compare both the models in terms of cost as well going forward. In terms of mid or the growth stage, what they do is they go offline, have some experience stores in some select cities where they are seeing some traction, and offline distribution expands the reach and the addressable market for the company. It also enables some touch feel factor where in some sub segments touch and feel is still very very important, and that's why this helps them. It increases the brand discovery, and these experience stores at the high end malls or busy streets actually acts as advertising for them. Now coming to the expansion stage, so at this stage they expand into adjacent categories, launch newer brands in the adjacent categories, and increase the basket size of the customer. So the average order value increases substantially at this point in time. Also, they have a omni-channel expansion where they do expansion in both online and offline distribution channels. Then they have house of brands architecture where multiple brands are there and they try and sell different brands to you. So if you have been buying only one brand from them, you try and sell other brands also to them. And lastly, they also go for international expansion to some extent. So how do these D2C brands differentiate against the existing incumbents that are there? So there are four key metrics that are measured. So one is the average order value, as I said. If you sell premium products, if you sell products in the adjacent categories, the basket size automatically increases, and that increases the average order value for them. Customer repeat ratio is something which is very, very important. The number of times the customer buys from you is very important, and if you sell it through your own website or app, then it also gives you the buying patterns of the customer, which can be used in data analytics. Gross margins is very important. If you keep your logistics costs low, and at the same time you as you grow in scale, the gross margins also increase for you. Brand resonance is something which they try and do through social media engagements, try and hire influencers on Instagram to use their products, and then build the products from there on. So this is a metric which is typically used by this company: lifetime value divided by the customer acquisition cost. So this is nothing but this formula where, as I discussed earlier, the lifetime value of the customer depending on how the customer buying patterns are there and the number of orders that a typical customer does, divided by the customer acquisition cost or the cost that they have incurred. So the higher the number, the better it is for any company. Now coming to the ecosystem, so how do these differ basically? So right now the distribution channel is such where the manufacturing brand sells to the wholesaler, then to the retailer, and then to the customer. Whereas through this channel, it goes straight away to the online platform or the marketplace, and then to the customer. Typically, the distribution which is paid to the wholesaler and retail is somewhere between 20 and 40%, depending on category to category. In this channel as well, if you go through a marketplace model, they charge somewhere between 20 and 40%, depending on which services you take from them. Also, if you are doing it through your online platform, then logistics costs are about 15%, depending again on the product that you sell, but it's around 15%. And if you add your own customer acquisition cost as well, it roughly comes to the same value. So basically, what was going to the wholesaler and retailer is now being replaced by developing your own apps, the advertising or the marketing spend that these companies do, and to some extent to the marketplaces. So, as I said, the traditional brands used to give a lot in terms of promotions and offers to the general trade and the wholesale channel. They do a lot of out of home advertising and TV, print media, etc. Whereas these D2C brands spend a major portion of their budget in on the digital advertising, be it Instagram, Facebook, Google AdWords, or other forms of social media. Also, they hire some influencers or bloggers who have some say on their Instagram accounts, and they have some followers who can increase the followers for the company as well. Also, target based advertising is possible in digital world, where you can target the ads to a particular segment of the crowd. So what ads you may see in your on your Instagram, I may not see them, and what you are seeing, what I am seeing, you may not see them. So this is what can happen in the digital world. So I think that I have covered this. So marketplace takes anywhere between 25 to 40% for logistics, inventory management, as well as the payment gateways. Whereas own website or app obviously requires an in-house technology team, or you outsource it to a outside provider. And logistics cost about 15% of the order value. So, what is the end game for these companies? So, there are only three options here. One is strategic sale to the incumbent companies. So, we have seen some transactions in this space where Beardo was acquired by Marico. We have seen the Man Company, which was acquired by Imami. Only a partial stake, but yeah, that was there. Second is raise more money and keep on growing till you reach a stage where you can tap the primary markets. And third is the IPO, where you have reached a scale and then you are going to the primary market. So we are not yet on the third stage in India. Globally, we have seen some IPOs of these D2C companies. In India, we are yet in the first or the second stage. So what are the major sub segments in the D2C space? So there are these five major subsegments where we have seen some brands coming up. One is beauty and personal care. Second is food and beverages. Third is fashion. Fourth is electronics, and fifth is the home and furnishings market. So, if you see the size of the market, fashion and electronics are very, very large, whereas beauty and personal care and home and furnishings are the smallest ones. Whereas if you look at the gross margins, the beauty and personal care has about 65 to 75% gross margins, and that's why we have seen maximum number of brands doing well in this space. Also, if you look at the purchase frequency, food and beverages is something which is weekly, whereas beauty and personal care is monthly, and others are about once in 3 to 4 months or even longer. So, if you look at the average order value for these companies, the beauty and personal care is about 400 to 2000, similar for food and beverages. Fashion is also somewhere thereabouts, whereas electronics and home and furnishings is a little higher. So, what are the brands which are present in each of the segments right now? If you look at the personal care segment, we have seen Wow Skin Scans doing well on the skin space, Mama Earth doing well, M Caffeine, Nykaa Naturals. Nykaa has a couple of brands in this space. If you look at the personalized space, then you have Bare Anatomy, Skincraft, etc. doing well. If you look at the niche space, Mom's Co, Mom Store, Nonu, etc. And in the women's hygiene space also, which has been captured by two major players, we have seen some sort of disruption happening here. In cosmetics, as I said, Nykaa K is the brand which is owned by Katrina Kaif in association with Nykaa. Sugar Cosmetics, MyGlam, which has done well. In men's grooming space, we have seen a number of companies coming up, like the Man Company, Bombay Shaving Company, Beardo, etc. Coming to some of the transactions which have happened in this space over the last 4 to 5 years, if you see in India, the transactions have picked up in the last 2 or 3 years only. As I said, as I highlighted some of the transactions, Beardo was acquired by Marico sometime in 2020. V Wash was in the feminine hygiene space, which was acquired in 2020 by HUL. Creme 21 was a premium German personal care brand which was acquired by Imami. Imami acquired Brillare as well. Bombay Shaving, so Colgate Palmolive bought about a 24% stake in Bombay Shaving Company in 2018. Imami bought 30% stake in the Man Company sometime in 2017. If you look at the transactions globally as well, we have seen some of these smaller companies which have been acquired by the giant companies like Unilever, P&G, Estee Lauder, etc. And some of these transactions have been at a scale which is really good to see, if anywhere between zero point 0.5 billion to 1.5 billion. Now, coming to the foods and beverages companies, so some of you might associate with some of the brands here. So, in milk and dairy products, we have seen, say, Country Delight or Asada Farms or Pride of Cows by Parag Milk Foods. In snacks, we have seen some protein supplement brands, some snack brands, etc., like Open Secret, Snackable, Yoga Bar, etc. In health and supplements also, we have seen some new brands. Healthcart is something which is an online platform for nutritional supplements. In tea and coffee, we have seen new brands, as I said in the previous slide. At the same time, in meat and seafood, we have seen Licious, Fresh to Home, etc., doing well. In meat alternatives, also, we have seen companies coming up. So some of the transactions which have happened here, if you see the global transactions which have happened, again, some big multinational companies like PepsiCo, Ferrero, Hershey's, etc., acquiring some of these smaller brands, and the deal value here is somewhere between $800 million to about $1,300 million. In India, we haven't had too many smaller brands being acquired by the larger multinational companies, but there have been some mergers which have happened, like Kraft Heinz, Zydus Wellness, or GSK Consumer Healthcare, and HUL. Coming to the fashion wear companies, again here we have seen a lot of brands. So Bewakoof is a economy brand which has been doing really well. We have seen some mass premium brands like Wrong, etc. doing well. Economic brands, premium brands, Jaipur.com, which is doing well. In innerwear, we have seen Zivami, 18, Clovia, etc. doing well. In activewear and athleisure, we have seen HRX. In eyewear, we have seen Lenskart. So basically, each of these subcategories have been disrupted by some or the other new players. So even in accessories, if you see Melora, it has done really well in gold jewelry. So the ticket size for them is really low compared to what say a Tanishq sells. But at the same time, they offer designs, new designs almost every week. So every Friday they launch about 200 designs and try and sell them. So the average order value is only 25,000 for them compared to say 1 lakh plus kind of average order value for Tanish. But if you see the ROC and the margins that they produce, they are much superior to even Titan or Tanish for that matter. So some of the transactions which have happened, some of them have happened in the last 3-4 months only. So if you see Manish Malhotra, which had been acquired by Reliance Brands, Ritu Kumar acquired by Reliance Brands, Sabyasachi Tarun Jaipur acquired by ABFRL, Shantanu and Nikhil acquired by ABFRL. So we have seen some transactions in this space as well. HRX was launched by Ritik Roshan, then it was some stake was acquired by Myntra sometime in 2016. So all the companies that we discussed, that were one set of companies. Another set of D2C companies are basically private labels. So we have seen some marketplaces having their own brands. So for example, if you see all these brands, these are Amazon brands. All of these are Amazon brands. So I was surprised by the number of brands that they have. I have used 4 or 5 of them, but I was surprised to see so many brands. On the right side, if you see, these are the private labels which have been launched by Pantaloons. This is a brand which is owned by Katrina Kaif in association with Nykaa. So basically, these some of these Bollywood superstars or cricketers are developing some of the brands with some platform companies. So HRX is with Myntra, 18 is with Puma, this one is with Nykaa. And another set of D2C companies are service D2C companies. So we have seen Go Mechanic do well on the car servicing space, Urban Company on the home side, where we have seen beauty and parlor services. At the same time, you see all the home cleaning services, pest control, plumbing, etc., being done by them. And on the other hand, you have some interior designing companies like Design Cafe, Live Space, etc. So what these companies are offering is unbelievable. So they offer about a 10-year warranty to the customers once you do up the home through them. So that is something which is acting as a differentiator. So let's look at some of the success stories. So I've just illustrated some of the success stories just to put forward a point. I have not put all the success stories here. So one is obviously Nykaa. So most of you have would have read about what Nykaa does, but it has evolved from being a marketplace to selling its own private labels on its own platform. So it started private labels sometime in 2016 with nail polishes, and then they eventually moved on to many other product categories. They have almost 2 lakh SKUs across a portfolio of close to 2,500 international, domestic, as well as luxury brands. Uh, Nykaa also has 73 physical stores. So some of the consumers don't even know that they have physical stores, but they started sometime in 2018, these physical stores, and now they have about 73 stores in 38 cities. In 2018, they also forayed into fashion and moved away from beauty and personal care, and they have about 1350 brands selling on their platform. At the same time, they have their own brands also now. And if you see what they have done brilliantly is that they saw as a marketplace, they saw what the consumers were buying, and based on that, they started developing their own brands or private labels and started selling them on their platforms. So yeah. Coming to firstcry.com, so basically it started this also started as a marketplace model, and then it is now a largest specialty commerce platform for kids and babies. They have converted this into a parenting community app where parents can actually interact with other parents. They have a strong omni-channel distribution strategy, and they have a personalized experience here, and basically it takes care of all the needs of a growing child. Boat. So, boat is a very interesting story where people thought that electronics is a very crowded space and it's very difficult to enter into this segment. What they did wonderfully was that they placed their products somewhere in between very cheap products and very expensive branded products. So, say a headphone which was available somewhere from 100 to 400 for the cheap brands, and 2000 plus for the premium branded products. They launched somewhere around 800 to 1000 rupees, which acted as a sweet spot for them, and then they just took off. So last year they did about 16.7 million in annual revenues. They have a customer base of about 2 million plus. So 67 million is basically 500 crores, around 500 crores. They attained number one position in yearwear within 4 years of its launch. They have brand ambassadors, which who are cricketers, young celebrities, singers, etc. And they also have a large presence on the online marketplaces. Mama Earth. So Mama Earth is a story in itself where the founders had a child and he had some skin allergy. So what they did was they had to import some of the products which were toxic free and which suited their child. And then they realized that there are no products which are actually toxic free in India for the babies. And so they launched Mama Earth at that point in time. They started with only six products, mainly cleansing or mosquito repellents, etc. And then they slowly moved on to more and more products, and now they are into almost all beauty and personal care categories, not only for babies but for all consumers. So they have crossed about 300 million in 300 crores in revenues, and they are growing at 100%. So they right now have about 140 products and which are sold both online and offline. I've spoken about some success stories, so I'll just speak about one failure story which I know of. This was DeFi. So it was a sports brand which was trying to compete with the likes of Nike, Adidas, Puma, etc. There was some the founder of this brand, Mr. Prashant Desai, has written a book which is the biography of a failed venture. He's currently with Everstone Capital and acts as an advisor to Burger King. But he has written this wonderful book where he discusses what were the reasons for the failure of this brand and what he could have done better to manage it. So one is very poor inventory management. Second is he didn't have the right team. So people in his team had different styles of management, and that acted against the brand. They tried and grew too fast, so they opened too many retail stores to sell this, and the operating costs actually shot up too much, where they couldn't bear the high capex and high opex both. They also underestimated some brand and advertisement expenses. So they had hired Hardik Pandya as a brand ambassador sometime in 2017-18, and they thought that after hiring the brand ambassador, the expenses wouldn't be that much. But after that, they realized that having a brand ambassador was one thing, but they needed to continuously spend on the advertising expenses to get the customer footfalls in their retail stores. They didn't know who the true customer was for them, and they built the brand ahead of the business. So at that point in time, this brand actually expanded sometime between 2017 and 2018. Whereas if you see the last couple of years, especially in COVID, you have seen some activewear and gymwear companies do really well. So they basically build the brand ahead of the business. So yeah, this is a very evolving space right now. We have seen many companies coming into this space, and it's too early to comment on these companies or brands. There are very interesting things happening from a listing point of view. We are very far away from many of these companies getting listed, because if you see, majority of these brands are somewhere between 10 crores in revenue to 100 crores in revenue. So most of these brands saturate around that level. Only some of them go above 100 crore in revenues, and if they actually succeed in doing that, then eventually those brands do really well. So some of the sources which I have used in the presentation. So there's a very interesting report by Avendus, private equity firm. So they have a D2C brand report. It's a very detailed report on what's happening in the D2C space in India. Retailers Association of India magazine is there, where they have published the BCG report. There are many founder interviews which you can go through on YouTube, or some of the articles, and the book which I spoke about, the biography of a failed venture. Yeah, thank you.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said many of these large international companies who are there in India, they have not launched brands over the last 10, 15 years, but they have a huge global portfolio of brands within US or Europe, and they have already, would have had the experience of in terms of success stories, right? So why they have been very slow in bringing these brands to India?
So, for example, say plant-based protein. So Unilever has many brands abroad, but they are not bringing it here because it's a very small market size at this point in time for them to spend their energy towards it. So that's why it's a very niche, small market right now. But as it grows, eventually they will also enter that segment, and we'll see whether the existing players win over the global multi giants, or how will it happen. We'll have to see that.
Okay. And also, what I feel from this is, as you said, the brand awareness is very high today, but brand loyalty is very low. So what I presume is also that these brands would have a very short life as such. Maybe good for 2, 3, 4 years, and then people completely forget about it. Somebody new player would come.
So in India, these brands have a very short history of 4 to 5 years. So we don't know how long will it last. But in US, typically we have seen these brands do well for a longer period of time as well. So specifically, say in shaving products only, we have seen $1 billion Shave Club. Then we have seen Harry's, which has done really well. So there are some products which have done well for a longer period of time as well.
Thank you.
My question is, these brands are creating new markets or eating into existing markets?
So some of them are creating new markets. Like I said, in the consumer space, there are some spaces which have not been tapped by the existing players. Whereas some of the players, let's say something like fashion, that market is already there. But the thing is that the organized segment is very low at this point in time, and these new players are either taking market share from the unorganized players, or the market is too big and it's growing too fast. So market size is also expanding at the same time.
So the presentation is very good,
Thank you.
but from investor perspective, whether it is an individual investor or a fund like you, very small slice of the entire pie is available, and it may not be available at a right price. So, can you throw some light on that?
That's why I said that it's a evolving space. Right now, we don't have too many investable companies in this space, but it's a very good space to keep a track of, especially if you invest in, say, consumer companies, retail companies. Then you should keep a track of these companies, what they are doing in their sub segments, and how can they be a competition to the existing listed companies as well. So going ahead, we may see some listings from this space as well. At that point in time, this knowledge might be useful, maybe.
So, this is not a question. I'm just making a comment to the previous question as to whether they are eating into existing market or creating new market shares. So, Uh, Difficult to answer. I'll just give you an example of the way I think about it. Uh, let's say ID coffee, the traditional South Indian filter coffee. Now, this has never been available in a ready to drink format where you just add it to hot milk and you have instant filter coffee. Or is it eating into market share of brew, or is it creating a new market? Difficult to say. Now, maybe it is eating into brew, or maybe it is replacing the traditional coffee that someone would brew in a South Indian home, or maybe it is eating into a cappuccino market, for example. So very difficult to say. The idli batter uh, clearly is not eating into any existing ready to eat, because typically it would be ground at home, but maybe it is eating into some restaurant market share. So a lot of these things are very, very innovative. So in the coffee slide that Raj had, there's one brand which is a cold press coffee,
Yeah.
which again one doesn't know. Even the toxin free slide that Raj had, that's eating into the import market. So it's really about innovating and creating small niches which one day could become large.
See, if the you said in a presentation that whatever money that the traditional brick and mortar FMCG or anybody was spending on the channels, distribution, retailers, and all that, the same expenses they incur on this online technology, then
Customer acquisition,
customer
etc.
acquisition and logistic. So, do customer really have a win-win situation, or because if in the long run, if customer realizes that it is not a win-win situation, or he is not even slightly benefiting, then there are chances that the attraction towards that product might contract.
So again, it's different for different brands. So most of the brands don't want to price them lower to the existing brands, because they want to show that their brands are at par with the existing brands. And at the same time, we have seen that say HUL products would be available at the local kirana store as well as the online marketplace. So if you search for a coffee on Amazon, you will get brew coffee also, you will get rage coffee also, you will get sleepy owl coffee also. So the prices, if you see, are more or less similar. It depends on the taste or the blend that you like, and if you become a customer at one point in time and if you like the blend, then they are hopeful that the customer will again buy that from them going forward as well.
I think the other thing what this online thing is doing is that it is creating the niche that was probably scattered around the country is now a company can still cater to that. Otherwise, you can't open a store and cater to that around. So in that way, it is a win-win because uh,
Yeah. So expanding on what Rukun said, firstly, it consolidates a fragmented market across the country into one market which one player can address. And secondly, even if the overall costs are not lower, the traditional outlet or a kirana store or a neighborhood grocery store would have limitation in terms of how many brands that the store will stock, or how much variety that person can offer. Whereas in the online marketplace, there are no constraints on number of stock keeping units or the variety that can be offered to the customer. So that's why it's more suited towards the online and omni channel rather than traditional small format local grocer.
Third party logistics, how is that space evolving?
So that space is evolving. In the past couple of years, more or less, it has more or less become stable. Where a couple of years back, we had seen some new players entering into this segment. At the same time, we have the Amazons of the world also doing their own delivery. So uh, this space is more or less evolved at this point in time. After GST, we had seen some transition happening, but now it's more or less evolved.
What are your comments on brands like these Decathlon or IKEA, which are like D2C? They're not like usual Unilevers of the world, but you can usually buy these products from their stores only, and they've been there for long. So, so do you see? A future of these brands also?
Definitely. So these brands also have been doing really well abroad. If you see IKEA, that has been doing really, really well. So again, that is also one segment of the D2C companies which have been doing well.
There used to be some, TV shopping channels, and they still exist. How are they evolving? And you know, um, there is this big company, Weber Global, which took semi-precious gems to the world. So how is it that India hasn't really seen much development?
I
in that
don't have too much inputs on that segment, but in India, it hasn't taken off to that extent. In US and UK, that has done really well. So Vaibhav Global mainly sells in US and UK. In India, I don't think it has taken off to that level.
So I'll just add to your point of the TV channel thing. Now there is a new thing called social streaming, or sorry, streaming shopping or social shopping, where there are influencers who talk about different brands, and there are e-commerce tools available within the social streaming apps. You can live shop things, just like on TV. You could call a phone number and live shop when the product was described to you. Here the audience or people can watch the influencer and they can buy directly, and the influencer gets a share of the revenue. So in China, this is very big. Globally, it is starting to appear here and there. In India, Meesho is doing something in that category, and some new brands are also there who are trying to do. So YouTube acquired a company recently in that category. So let's see how it evolves.
So look and feel, for look and feel, Nykaa has stores like they have in Orbit and some places in the malls. How is it important for them to have a look and feel store?
So some people still prefer look and feel. Some people choose to buy it online, see how it looks, how it feels, and then if they don't like it, they return the product. So just to give you an example, for example, a mattress, you would typically think that people would want to look and feel how does it feel while sleeping, while sitting. Wakefit, D2C company, has done really, really well in this segment. So they started off with a 30-day return policy where they said you try the mattress at home. If you don't like it, within 30 days, you can return the product. Now they have extended that timeline from 30 days to 100 days. So it's a really good thing that they are doing where you can try it at your home. Typically, women would not prefer to say sleep in a store, whereas she would prefer to try it at home, and then if she doesn't like it, she would return the product. So this segment also, Wakefit has done really, really well. From selling mattresses, they have gone on to selling furniture also now. So they have expanded really well. Okay, fine. Then we can wind up. Thank you.
Whenever things got rough, I always remember what my father used to say.
Running a business does test a man, my son. There are ups and downs, glorious highs, and sometimes a low that leaves you feeling defeated.
The character of a man and the character of a business are not very different, are they?
Yes. But when the chips are down, we must stand up, dust ourselves off, and motor on.
Volatility. It's a funny thing. It makes you question yourself and wonder if you've made all the right decisions.
Sure, you can question some of your decisions, but stay steadfast on your goals.
Dad always said, there are no shortcuts and no quick profits.
There are no free lunches, are there? There is only one
right way.
At PPFAS, we think like Rahul and his father. That volatility is a fact of running a business. And buying equity shares is like owning a part of that business. We use value investing principles to manage your money. This means we invest in the right businesses at reasonable prices and for a longer term.
PPFAS Mutual Fund. There's only one right way. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.